The little girl's voice cracked through the hallway like breaking glass. "Daddy, please help her." People later said that was the moment everything changed. Not when the first punch landed. Not when 3 grown men hit the floor. But when a tired janitor, with cleaning gloves still on his hands and exhaustion carved into his face, slowly stood up and turned around. He hadn't planned to fight anyone that day. He hadn't even planned to speak. He was just trying to finish his night shift, earn enough to keep the lights on, and get home before his daughter woke up scared from another nightmare. What no one in that hospital corridor knew was that this man had once survived things far worse than 3 bullies. They didn't know the quiet janitor had buried friends at sea, followed orders that still haunted his sleep, and learned long ago how to stay invisible. The men laughed when they saw him. The security cameras would later show the smiles fade in less than 10 seconds. By the next morning, rumors had spread. By noon, a black government car rolled into the parking lot. And by evening, a Navy Admiral stood exactly where the janitor had been mopping the night before, asking one question that froze the entire building. "Where is Petty Officer Daniel Reyes?" And that's when everyone realized they had never been dealing with just a janitor. Daniel Reyes moved his mop slowly, not because the floor was dirty, but because his body hurt in ways painkillers no longer touched. 42 years old, single father, night janitor at a city hospital. That was how the world saw him now. His past sat locked away behind silence and scars no one asked about. His daughter Sophia was everything. 8 years old, sharp-eyed, stubborn, and too brave for a child who had already lost her mother. Daniel worked nights so he could walk her to school in the mornings. He slept in fragments. He lived on coffee and promises. That night, the hospital was tense. A young nurse named Emily had been rushed in after collapsing during her shift. Daniel recognized fear when he saw it, not just in Emily's eyes, but in how 3 men hovered near her room, arguing loudly with staff. Their voices carried entitlement, anger, and something darker. When Daniel passed by, he heard one of them hiss, "You'll do what we say." He kept walking. That was the rule now. Don't get involved. Don't be seen. Go home alive. Then Sophia's voice echoed in his memory. "Daddy, help her." Emily stumbled out of the room moments later, shaking, cornered near the supply hallway. One man grabbed her wrist. Another blocked the exit. Nurses froze. People always froze when violence chose its moment. Daniel dropped the mop. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He stepped forward and said quietly, "Let her go." They laughed. One shoved him. Another called him cleaning boy. The first man never saw the strike coming. Daniel moved with muscle memory buried deep but never gone. A wrist twist, a shift of weight, a controlled takedown that slammed the man into the wall without excess force. The second charged and went down harder. The third reached into his jacket, a fatal mistake. In under 20 seconds, 3 men were on the floor, groaning, disarmed, and unable to stand. Daniel stood still, breathing evenly, eyes scanning like the room might explode. Silence swallowed the hallway. Emily collapsed, crying. Daniel knelt, wrapped his jacket around her shoulders, and said the only words that mattered. "You're safe." Security arrived too late. Police followed. Daniel didn't resist. He answered questions with short sentences. He never mentioned his past. He just asked one thing. "Can I go home to my daughter?" That night, Sophia waited by the door. When Daniel finally arrived, bruised and tired, she hugged him like she knew. "You helped her, didn't you?" she whispered. Daniel kissed her hair. "Yes, baby. I did." He thought that was the end. He was wrong. The next morning, Daniel returned to work expecting termination, maybe charges. Instead, the hospital buzzed with whispers. A black sedan idled outside. Men in crisp uniforms walked the halls like they owned time itself. When the Navy Admiral stepped inside, conversations died mid-sentence. Admiral Thomas Hale stopped near the janitor's closet, studied the floor, then smiled faintly. "He still cleans like a sailor," he said. Daniel froze when he heard his name spoken in a voice he hadn't heard in 15 years. They stood face to face, one in dress blues, one in worn work boots. "Petty Officer Reyes," the Admiral said softly, "you saved a life last night." The truth poured out then. Daniel had been part of a classified naval unit. Decorated. Discharged early to care for his dying wife. He never returned. Never asked for help. Just disappeared into civilian life. The men he stopped? Connected to something much bigger. His instincts had been right. In front of hospital staff, the Admiral saluted him. "For courage that never left you," he said. Emily recovered. Charges were dropped. Daniel was offered a position, training, consulting, purpose again. But the moment that mattered most came later, at home. Sophia sat on his lap, touching the small medal the Admiral had given him. "Are you a hero?" she asked. Daniel smiled through tears. "No, baby. I'm your dad." The message spread far beyond that hospital. Strength doesn't always wear uniforms. Heroes don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they push mops at night, carry their pain quietly, and stand up only when it truly matters. And when a child says, "Daddy, please help her," a real man always answers. He always does.